Hello and welcome to the Love Foundry podcast. It is the 21st of May. We're just going to do a short one today because Dan has got to run to a previous engagement. But what would we like to discuss today, Dan?
Well, I'm interested in fusing the duality of soul and personality and how that happens in your consciousness so that you can begin the process, actually begin the working process of bringing love into your awareness in a way that allows it to make contact with others and yourself.
Yeah.
So I don't know how. Hold on a second. I got Jack.
Okay, we're back.
And, all right.
Yeah, Dan, you were just telling us about the fusion between.
Yeah, I did one yesterday by myself about this, and a couple of days ago about the duality. Because look, we have to figure this out. If you don't, you're not going to have an impact of love in your life. You're going to be thinking about it the way most people do now. It's not a power in their life unless you make it one. And you have to make it one by a conscious effort to bring it into the world of human experience, because it's missing in everybody's world. So that makes it such a universal experience for everyone on the frickin' planet that nobody thinks it's real, or they've worked out some completely different scenario of what love is, so they think they already have it. Now, that may not be true. You have to figure out if that's true. I'm certain that that's true. So that's just my experience. That's how it lives in me. Now,
yeah.
Taylor, how do you feel about the fusion of love with you, with your consciousness, in a way that gives you power with it, or it power with you?
Well, it's tricky business, Dan.
Yes, it is tricky business.
Because once you start to look at it in that way, especially if you're talking about a unification, right? And this getting past duality back to unification, it's how much of everything that we think we are is nothing to do with who we actually are. And as you were talking, I was reminded of this bit by Joseph Campbell. Joseph Campbell talks about something along the lines of when you make everything a thou rather than it. And he's talking about it in a romantic way. He was really into like the troubadours and whatnot. He was really inspired by romanticism. But when you're talking about an other, rather, or anything in life as thou, as an I, rather than an it takes that duality.
That's Martin Buber's famous.
Is that okay? So maybe
approach.
It stems from there as well.
I and thou. That's where he probably got it.
Right, but I just started thinking about that, and it's like, you just start to accept it all as life. There is no other. You start to see that I am that, or, kind of like what these Hindu mystics kind of say. It's like it all starts to say the same thing at some point. And when I really start to look at that and spend time with that, you start to realize how much of what you think you are is not even you. You get wrapped up in this externalization and relating to the world around you. But when you don't include love in that, it separates you from whatever it is. And then it's out of your hands. It's out of your control. And it's a hard place to work from, It's like you really have to bring it back in. You have to start from that place.
Okay, hold on a minute. Because what you're saying makes no sense at all.
Okay.
Not because it isn't real, because it makes sense to you, but what you're communicating isn't. Maybe it does to somebody else that's watching or listening, but not to me.
Okay.
Because you're not.
Break this down better.
Well, no, it's got too many elements in it, which is your favorite thing. It's like a freaking fruitcake.
I don't like fruitcake.
Well,
not enough elements.
I don't know that I believe you, because you've got in the I and thou, you've got a personal relationship. And what makes I and thou especially important is reverence, the reverence we have towards an other. But now, when you talk about that, you're framing the conversation around the duality of human beings, male and female, but not necessarily male and female, just people that we have reverence for. And that's what we've been doing and calling it love. But we haven't been singling out to take observation of the actual presence of love itself. That's what makes an I or a thou have power or have influence or have relativity. Because if you take the love out of that, then you just have two rocks sitting on a beach by each other, and they don't have much towards each other. So I'm looking at, because it's part of what we're talking about today. We can talk about anything, but
like
the
an animating principle, right? Like,
well, how are you going to become the how am I trying to say this?
Sorry.
If you you're trying to get the rest of us seasick, if you're looking at someone else and have any anticipation or expectation that you're going to get love from them, or you're going to give love to them, now you have created a world in which that's possible in your imagination. I can receive love from you. I can give love to you.
But
that seems like a logical premise. But what that leaves out is the presence of love. You're taking something that's a living thing and you're thinking, oh, I can take some of this and I can give it to Taylor, or Taylor can take some and give it to me. And if she doesn't give it to me, I won't have the love I need. Or if I give it to her, she'll have the love that she needs from me, which will bind her to me or bind me to her, or something of that kind of configuration in the human thinking of need and dual relationships. So, but what we're looking at is the taking on in yourself of the energy of love. How do you take that on? Irrespective or irrelevant, actually, to anyone else. In other words, the thing that's missing in the reason all of that other subterfuge is happening in the human race of us, I and thou, and you and me, and how we love each other, and I'm getting love from this, and I don't love you anymore, and all of that stuff that we go through is because of the absence of it as a commodity of existence inside of everybody. If you have it, if you're conscious of the relationship of love in this universe to you, that it actually is in reality, where do you stand in the real universe with love? How does it stand in relationship to you, and how do you stand in relationship to it? And how are you going to make it a unified part of your expression and experience? And how are you going to help others to do that, to become part of the living universe of truth, of reality, of what is real? Because it's not real to live in a universe where you're not conscious of love. That's an illusion. It's not an illusion that you're not conscious of it, but it's an illusion that it doesn't exist. And so putting yourself into the place where you and love have a relationship together. In a real universe, not this illusionary one that most of humanity is living out there wondering, is there a God or isn't there a God? Is there love? Isn't there love? Is there dragons? Aren't there dragons? Is there angels? Aren't there angels? You see, that wouldn't be happening in a real universe. That's not happening where reality is. In reality, it's all obvious. Why is it all obvious? Because in reality, love is present to us. And it reveals all the things that live in it, which are a tremendous amount of supernatural beings live in the reality with love. And when you're out of that entire reality, the whole kingdom of love is irrelevant to us, except in some religious prayer, then you're unconscious of all of those beings and your relationship to it through love, which is what bridges all of that to you.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm trying to talk about, if you hold your, did you go sailing today? Are you feeling a little sea
No,
legs?
I'm sorry. I had to move my operation in here, so I have nowhere to set the camera.
I get it. That's
I'm
fine.
sorry.
We'll get through it. It distracts us away from watching Seb. So that's good.
That is good.
So I don't know if you see what I'm talking about. If you're talking about experiences you're having in the world of illusion, where love is not an obvious asset, an obvious aspect of reality. You see, if love's not an obvious aspect of reality for you, then you're living in a world of illusion.
Mm-hmm.
It's not your fault. You're just not able to be moment to moment conscious of the reality that love is around you and with you.
Well, and that becomes like a duality because
Yes, it's you and love,
exactly.
but
And
that's
so,
the illusionary universe and the love-based universe.
mm-hmm.
So it's no more than just you and love. It's you and the universe in which love is the dominant presence.
Well, that's the tricky part of it too, because that's what I was saying is how much of your personality is the personality that's, in the illusionary world that you've built up as an ego kind of a personality, and how much is the real you. And that's what I mean.
99%.
Right. And that's what's tricky is because you have to start to kind of separate the wheat from the shaft, and you have to, look at it in a totally different lens, because you have
Yes,
to be
you
able
do.
to, you have to have tools to kind of start to identify that. Because,
That's what I'm asking you. What tools do you use to identify that?
well, because when the love is present, it's really obvious. And so that is a tool, when you're actually standing in consciousness with love and that reality, it's obvious, but it's not always obvious when you're trying to look at a fusion of your personality and your soul, and this take the duality out of it when you're still living in the illusionary world. It's like I can't live in the real world all the time. I'm striving towards it. I'm working towards it. I'm moving in that direction by
Right.
varying
Well,
degrees from
that's
day
an
to day.
honest self-assessment. Welcome to the human race. That's what's called being
Yeah,
human. So,
right.
but that's the difficulty. You're more advanced than most people because you're conscious that it exists. At least you think it does. You're pretty sure it does. You're mildly convinced that it does. Or wherever you stand on that scale of knowing that love is real, and it's your ability to manifest that reality to yourself, to make that real to yourself. And by making it real to yourself, you are placing yourself in the proximity to love's potential to inform you,
Mm-hmm.
to empower you, to give you the gifts that it possesses that nobody in the world knows how to do.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and I use examples from Christianity because that's the place at which it was abundantly evident for a short
Mm-hmm.
period of time. For 3 years, love, not full 3 years, because it wasn't until Jesus' baptism that love showed up. But it did. It showed up and entered him, the dove descending and all of that. So when he gets baptized by John, suddenly he's filled with the Holy Spirit, or with love itself, the nature of the spirit of the universe as a living, loving power. Now, it's a power that life possesses and has endowed the universe with so that it can progress, so that it can evolve, so that it can make creative action and grow. Now, we observe its impact on us. What are you looking at?
So
Me?
Yeah,
Oh, I'm
Seb, it's
looking at
hilarious, isn't it?
I'm looking at you. It's probably the position of where you are on my
What
screen.
you do, want to get a room or what?
Here we go. I've moved your image more central on my screen. But I was also just thinking, this problem is much harder and much simpler. Harder, and I mean, what Taylor was talking about like, what percentage of us is like, the ego side of us, and what is our true self. And I think it's simple, because when you're standing in love, everything, I think, becomes simple in what you want to do. Like when you're standing in love, you're, for me at least, my heart feels far more open. And it's a bit like being in a crisis. Everything is just simpler. Like you know what needs to be done, and you do that. When you're standing in love, you know roughly what love wants to do, and you follow your heart in that situation. The tricky business, the harder part, that I think is you have to get through that personality ego stuff to get to the place where you want to stand in love, and you want to be in that position where you're offering that, where you're holding that for yourself and for others. I think.
Okay, that's true. That's a good point. But do you perceive a time in which you are conscious, visually, audibly, sensually, of love itself in that process of being simple-hearted or in communication with it? Because you're talking about the impact or effect it has on your residency.
Yeah.
You know, you becoming different because love's in some invisible way or visible way impacting you. Do you foresee a time in which you and love are in a conscious embrace in which its characteristics or its energetic beingness is visible and knowable to you?
Well, there's times when I feel thrust into it, not in any sort of negative sense, but just a situation calls for it, where the I see someone in front of me that I can't not open my heart to, you know? So it's like that space is held because I need to. And
What's the
then
difference between that and your emotions?
I think
If you emotionally look, if I look at Taylor, I can feel sympathy for her. She's got 3 kids. I can be heartfelt. Is that is that emotion I'm feeling towards someone who's suffering, or is that love? It's these are the discriminations that we build upon until we finally break through to a realization and a knowingness that we are in the presence of love. And because of your lack of conversation about the powers of love, which are transformation, transmutation, unity, and grace, just 4 of them, plus many other powers. If you recognize those impacts in your life, you know, if you have a close friend who's a billionaire, and that billionaire gives you gifts, then you receive those gifts, and you have a relationship based on transactions and how you feel about those transactions. Well, love has incredible amount of gifts that it offers freely. But if you don't have a sensual experience about love, you can't determine origin of those things. You can't determine receptivity of them. They're just happening. Or they're going on around you and maybe landing in your space and maybe missing your space. So, and all of these are avenues into love. They're all what I would call stages of growing into the experience of recognizing the fullness of the reality of love. I don't know how the Christ as Maitreya or as Jesus or as one of the masters who are embraced in love all the time, I don't know how they see love. I really do not. And but they do. It's not a mystery. It's not a vague thing. It's a conscious, constant presence in their reality. It comes with life. It comes with intelligence, and it comes with will. It comes as one of the commodities of total existence. Now,
I always see them opposite of us. Like they have to, I always think of them as opposite as us. Like they have to try to consciously see what the world looks like without love.
Yeah, I don't even know
Right.
that's possible after the infusion.
They have to imagine into it. You know?
Yeah, just like what would the world look like if I took love out of it? Well, go to
It would look
Ukraine.
like this world.
Yeah, it would look a lot like what we call life. And until we really understand that, until we can take upon ourselves the possibility that that's true, that we're missing a tremendous ingredient called love in our composition of existence, how you feel about everything, how it all looks to you, what makes you think about things the way you do. Because once love makes a relationship with you, its powers become acquaintances of yours. If I know you and I know that you have a gift for singing, then I know that that's part of your repertoire. You can sing, or you can dance, or you can do other things that I don't know that you can do until you demonstrate them to me. Well, love has incredible capacities. And once we experience those capacities from out of the energetic reality that love presents from the kingdom in which it lives fully to us, then all of a sudden you're hit by this wall of livingness, pure livingness, that touches you and connects with you and brings these gifts of transformation and transmutation and unity. You don't know what it feels like to experience unity with all living things, the actual unity. Intellectually, you can know that there's probably a connection between you and most living things, but to experience them as you, as aspects of you, which love can do, it can bring you into that relationship in a second. And because it's true, and why is it true that you have an absolute union and living experience with all other things? It's because of love, because it connects you through itself, because it is an organic aspect of every living being on the universe, and because it's a living organic aspect of you. The two of you and the dragon in the constellation Draco that you've never met, you are connected together somehow. And you will never know that connection until love shows you the experience of it. So we're looking at this in terms of, what have we been missing? Is this a real element of life available to humans to transform their life with, to transmute their life with, to give their life the joy and fullness and ecstatic meaning that life can give you? Or is that all just a myth? So, you have to find that out and you have to prove it. And if you are pretty convinced that it's real and you're the problem, then you're on your way to it. If you think that maybe you're the problem and that life actually holds love, then you at least are taking some responsibility for what's going on in your life. And we're deeply mired in an illusion of opposites, the separation of love into two opposites. And we think, because we experience ourselves between the opposites due to our lack of awareness of love, that that's what's real. But there is no such thing. When you fuse those opposites together, love appears. It's one of the strange and weird things that happens with love. It's the union of things together, realizing they are not separate from each other, that produces this shocking realization that you and love have a business together, that all the things that you think are opposite to you, and that includes everything. And you've got to not try to accept things that you don't like or do like from the truth of things. If you're a Democrat and you like them, and you don't like Republicans at this particular stage of your story, then you've separated yourself from some part of yourself. And the vice versa is true. If you're a Republican and you don't like those damn Democrats, then you have separated yourself from some part of yourself. But the moment that you love that other part, the moment you actually, through love, recognize your unity with it, then the power that is generated in this universe when you combine these two opposites appears. And you realize it appears because you and love are generating it. You're generating unity. And all of those opposites that we don't want to be the other side of, the victim and the victimizer. And what that does, that can be your husband, it can be your kid, it can be the policeman, it can be the criminal. The moment that you pose yourself opposite that, I'm the victim, you victimize me. Well, the moment you forget that you are the victimizer, now how can that be true? You see, that doesn't seem logical. That's because your intellect is a divided house already. It's looking for opposites. So it says, well, okay, so slaves are victims and people who have slave holders are the victimizers. But that's not true. It's essentially not true. Victimizers wanted to be separate from some other thing, and so they produced a reality in which it looks like that's true. And victims earned the opportunity to be that other side of what that victimizer wants. So you have to produce both halves of that reality have to be produced in each of you. You each have to separate yourself into the other. And now you can blame that person for your victimhood, and that person can take pride in victimizing you or whatever energies you care to experience. But love watches this, knowing that you are the same person. You're the same person. Now, we can argue with that. And I can intellectually tell you that why is this happening to you and you don't realize it? Why are you being victimized by somebody and not realizing that you are victimizing yourself because you posited a part of yourself over there and made it victimize you so that you can experience half of that. Now, how do we do that? Well, you've got assistants. You got the assistants of love, and one of love's assistants are the lords of karma. And the lords of karma give you what you need to grow you out of this dislocation with love. Love knows the universe on earth, the universe of human experience is insane. It knows that we are deluded. It knows that we have lost the plot. It's obvious. It's obvious to anybody with love that we are nuts, that we aren't holding its awareness in us. Okay, there's reasons for that. Nobody's blaming us. It's simply a condition that Seb experiences. So we watch him, and we will watch him floundering around, being a victim of something or victimizing someone or doing what he's doing, in all of this duality of opposites. We recognize that's only happening in him because of his lack of consciousness of the presence of love in him, that unifies all that in him into a single realization. You see, because love cannot be victimized. You can't make a victim out of love. If you possess the power of love in you, nothing can make a victim out of you. You can look, and this is one of the great mistakes of Christianity.
I was just thinking that.
Jesus is not a victim. He knew exactly what he was doing. He chose the experience. Now, all the people that were trying to victimize him, the ones who were the Sanhedrin, which is the religious leaders of the day, who decided that they're going to have to get rid of this guy because he's wrecking their game. He's bringing a new game into town, and they don't want to play the new game because they got a good gig going already. And not just selfishness like that. These are reverent scholars when it comes to Jehovah or to their religious roots, but he's talking about things that are blasphemy to them. God is within you. I am God. You are God. And love, because love had entered him and was identifying with him, and he was identifying with it. And in his realization of it, he said, we are this. We are the light of the world. Each of us, once we let love become our companion in the game. So he's telling the truth from his perspective in that experience. But they can't see that because they can't see that light in themselves. They're not willing to look for it right now. Now, hardly anybody in the human race knew what he was talking about, so he didn't have very many defenders when people are beginning to question his sanity or his ability, even though he's performing miracles, healing people right and left, turning water into wine, raising the dead. It doesn't matter. When you come up against my prejudices and my beliefs and you're threatening them, I get defensive. And so they turned the separativeness of their own beliefs and their own form of insanity, their own evil, against this man. And he had to make a choice to let that happen and identify with love, because you can't hurt love. And if you attack love, it loves you. There's no way around it, because it doesn't do anything else. Then that was the path upon which he set his feet. It wasn't the one he would have chosen for himself. And I think in the Garden of Gethsemane, where all of this meditation went down, where he realized that's what's going to happen because he doesn't have enough support from his boys. And it's the way love is playing out this game, and he's part of it. But he's also a mature enough man to know that there is no such thing as death. You can't kill him. You can kill his body. You can make life miserable for him. You can scourge him and whip him and crucify him. But you can't shake his realization of love, and you can't take it away from him. And he realized that demonstration needed to be honored. He needed to honor that in front of the world, up to and including passing into death. So he did that. He didn't do it because anybody forced it on him. He did it because he wanted to, because that was the only way in which this communication could be made. And as a result of that, it released that energy into the world in a way that it transformed the world. And it's still transforming it, and it's bringing that process more and more to the surface, and is penetrating throughout time and space. And love is conquering as a result of that experience. The religion's not conquering. That's just a library. And so, but the energy itself is coming into the consciousness of humanity as a result of that experience, because it entered us, and it's still here, and it's available in you. Now the question is, are you going to make yourself conscious of it and empower yourself with it? And how are you going to bring it into the space? What are you going to do to open the portal in which opens you into that kingdom where love is, which is all around us and inside of us, but not visible to us, and make it join you in your raising of your children, your interaction with the rest of us, with your family, with your life? That's the question I have today, is how are you going to bring that fusion about? How do you see yourself opening that, what I call portal, because it's kind of a portal kind of experience. It's a threshold, it's a place. There are doors, there are gates, the golden gates that open into love, and you can let it into what? Into your consciousness. This is a consciousness game. Mm-hmm. It's already everywhere.
More and more, I think the answer for me, I always keep coming back to humility. The more humility I have towards whatever it is that shows up in front of me, the more it opens it up for me. The more it opens.
How does humility do it?
Because humility, it's like it takes out any separation from something. Even recently, I had an experience where, my sister was in a rough position where, you're facing things like possible loss in your life, the loss of somebody that's dear to you. And, like Seb was talking about earlier, I was thinking about when you were talking about how your heart opens up in these things. And for me, it looks a lot like emotion at first. And then as soon as I actually consciously put love in the space with me, it's just, it transform. It's not emotion anymore. It's like something else takes that place, where all of a sudden this, things that I would attach to emotion, like the sadness or this, desperation maybe, or whatever those emotions that turn up in me, all of a sudden I don't have any of that. And it feels like I step closer to what Buddha always talks about as true compassion. It's like I'm not feeling emotion. It's different. It's like I have such reverence for what this person is experiencing in their being, that it's like I just want to surrender to that and just honor whatever it is that they're going through, and like have a sense of reverence. And it felt like what Buddha talks about is true compassion, rather than feeling this way or that way about it. It's like willing to honor that.
All right.
That
Well,
course.
all right. So that's a practice.
A practice,
Which
yeah. And
Buddhism is a practice, and it's a practice of compassion more than anything else.
It is. I'm not able to communicate clearly what I mean when I say reverence towards things, though. I'm sorry.
Well, but reverence towards things is not humility. It's reverence.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Humility towards things. Sorry, I get tripped
well,
up when I'm looking back in time instead of being right here, right now. I know, when you're looking
inside yourself, because
I was looking at this past experience, and that also separates love from right now. And I strive in these podcasts to be right here, right now. And so I
well, that's where love is. So it would be good that we appreciate the help.
So this is like an ongoing practice, as it were, for me. So
it
even
is.
Looking back,
but the things that make a practice workable are applying the tool. If I give you a sledgehammer, reverence is like a sledgehammer. But if I give you a sledgehammer and ask you to put a screw in the wall with it, you'll find some difficulty. But if I give you a screwdriver, then which is humility, then we have a chance to do it. So identifying the tools and identifying the use of the tools in terms of practice, then, and with our eye on the releasing of love into our consciousness. See, make it practical, make it simple. It's like a mechanic. If you don't get the bolt on, you can't tighten it up. And it's just, it's a question of how are you applying the tools in your toolkit to reveal love to yourself in a way that gives you power with it, that gives you a deep, permanent connection to how you can apply this in your life. And if you don't require that of yourself, Taylor, then you're not going to do it. You're going to be vague about it. You're going to talk about it in a way that's flimsy, instead of the kind of certainty that says, what I do is I do this and I do this and I do this. And then there that is, and I can touch it. I can find a sense of connection to that. And we have to find out, because when you're looking back from love, when you and love are actually sharing the same consciousness together, and you're looking back at how you got there, that's how that realization will appear to you. I did this and it resulted in that. And that allows you to help someone else do it. Because if you can't, how are you going to educate your kids in it if you're vague about it yourself? And the whole human race, because we're not only vague about it, we're completely fucking ignorant of it. We just don't know how. And we don't know how to hold, we don't know the difference between emotion and love, or the rocking of the sea around us.
Well, I think when I'm in that place, I think emotions come up for me a lot. But the difference for me between just having emotions and having a connection to love is like when I'm having a connection to love, it's like there's a light in the room, and I know exactly what's important. There's this sense of joy, even if I'm having an emotion that is sadness or whatever it is. There's this joy that comes with it that keeps me focused on exactly what it is that I kind of need to be doing.
Oh, wait. Now you see the difference between how Seb approaches love. He approaches it emotionally, and he approaches it in terms of how it affects him or affects his perception of reality, where you're talking about it from a more visual point of view, or a different point of view, because of the different types of human beings we all look at this from a different angle. You know, like we're all examining the elephant, and the 7 blind guys examining the elephant kind of thing.
That's true.
We're not sure what part Seb's groping, but we'll accept that it's different from yours. And so these are important conversations for people to listen to as if they were looking for the same treasure. This is a treasure hunt. And when you find the treasure, it is obvious to you. It's like, oh my God, it's right there. It's been there all the time, because love is everywhere, and it's inevitable, and it's available. And all it's lacking is your intelligence, using your senses to bring it into focus. And when it hits you, now that's the intellect seeking. And the intellect seeking love, or your emotional body longing for it, desiring it, that's one thing. But letting yourself actually experience it is another thing, because that's coming through your direct contact with reality. Reality is real, and it's only real when it includes love. Anything that does not include love is essentially not real, except in your consciousness. If I ask you to imagine your life without love, then you can imagine hell. You can imagine voidness. You can imagine negativity. You can imagine sterility. You can imagine cruelty. You can imagine a lot of things, because you've experienced all of those things in your life. You've witnessed it from the time of your birth. You've witnessed all of those things that demonstrate absence of love. So many that it may have convinced you that love doesn't exist. You know, when your first boyfriend dumped you, and that sort of thing that happens to us. And so, but the fullness of the experience with love, that's rare in people. We fell in love with Gwendolyn or Bobby, and I doted over him and wrote stupid poems and did all of those things. And so that's maybe as close as I ever came to love. And maybe you sacrificed yourself in some way for someone's need, and the sensation came upon you, and you felt that was love. Maybe think something that maybe, but see how a light that is? That's like love light. But it happens with people, and it shows them that this exists. Now, I don't think you're going to convince Jesus that love doesn't exist. It's just not going to happen, because his experience with it was so full, so complete, so fused with him, that it's impossible for him to imagine that it no longer exists in his world. So, but somewhere before that happened to him, he was missing it as well. Maybe not as much as we are, maybe not as much as Seb is, but we're missing it. So what we want is, we want that proximity, and we want the sensation of recognition with that. And there's something in us that doesn't think it's that real. You know, you look at a rainbow, that looks lovely going across the sky. You got lots of them in Hawaii, but you can't get hold of it. It's not something you can grab, squish down, and take it home and put it on your wall. You don't get to do that with rainbows. You can take a picture of it, that's it. But that's what we've done with love. We've taken a picture of it, and then we put it on our wall, and we call that love. But it isn't, is it? It's a real thing, and it's living and moving and dynamically active, and we just brush it, and it can change everything in our life, but we can't hold on to it. Now, that's our inadequacy, not love's inadequacy. So what are you going to do to bring that into a deeper, more tangible, more personal, more real? If Jesus can heal lepers with it, that's a pretty profound power of love to do that. I think turning water into wine is miraculous, personally, especially if it's a Pinot Noir. But the point is, it's absurd that that can happen, that something can do that. So it has to be really strong and really tangible and really intelligent and really powerful in order to be able to do that. And we just, what the hell is that? And how do we do it? And how do we get into that game? How do we get into the love game? If you want in, declare yourself, commit yourself, and get in. And then there's plenty of room in there, and love will join you really like that. So I'm just saying there's a way to do that. There's a way to be engaged. And when someone really wants to be engaged in an activity or a dynamic or a reality that they're standing on the outside looking in, then they do. They step in. They look at that and go, I want to do that. And they become part of it. And love is the same way. But what I'm saying is, I have a good friend who's a wonderful artist, and she was taken to the Louvre when she was a child by her mom, and she looked up at one of those big paintings that somebody did and said, "That's what I are, Mommy." And that's what she meant. I paint those paintings. And so she ends up painting some really miraculous paintings, but she declared herself in that world. She joined it by her intention to be that. And that's probably how Carl Sagan became an astronomer. And that's how any mathematician enters into the game of taking on mathematics. Love is its own unique property, an aspect of life. Life is a very real thing. We all have it, fortunately, and it's very consistent. It keeps generating itself out into the universe. Now, science can't prove that the sun is alive, but it's ridiculous to assume it's dead. So why would we? And its capacity as a life to know itself, to know love, to know what it's doing in the universe, to know why it has all these planets and elements, and why it's manifesting itself in the universe, to assume that your sun, our sun, doesn't have a purpose to itself and know what it's doing, and a relationship with love, is just silly to do that. You can't prove it, but you can't prove that it doesn't either. So it leaves it with you open. So it just brings you back to, what do you want? Do you want that relationship yourself with something like that? Or do you want to assume that it's not important, that it's not worth the effort, that you don't really need it, that your life is complete enough without it because your kids are beautiful and your life is pretty good and your bills are paid and nobody's dying right now? But you look around the world and you see that there are 1 million people dying right now. 29 million people a day die on this earth. 29 million. And most of them, I think, not by natural causes. Something interrupts their flow. Violence, disease, uncertainty, failure to embrace what will keep their little engine running. And I think that the consciousness of love in humanity could change that a lot. Until we free ourselves of the illusion of death, which is another one of the opposites, life and death. But there is no death. There's only life. So how do we dismiss death from our consciousness? That all comes with the same one thing. There's only one solution or cure for everything: the consciousness of the reality of love. And you know, by not having a power over death, by not having the consciousness that there's no such thing, by not having the conscious power over disease, by not having the power over all those things, you know that you're not living in reality with love. You're just not yet. And if you want to, you can, because that one thing applied to everything in your life can create great beauty, great harmony, great love, great health, great life, great vitality, all the things that we want, and take care of the difficulties that challenge our existence. So how are we going to make that true for people? Because that's what our job is. I don't know why I hired you two to help.
Well, we have to live it then.
We have to live it. I don't know why I hired myself. And look, that's how it starts. It starts with somebody who says, look, this is possible. I agree, this is possible. And maybe you guys don't agree that it's possible.
That's what I are, Dan.
That's what you are, Dan. All right, so let's find out. But from the time that she looked at the painting and said, I or that, she had to learn how to paint.
Yeah.
But because of her desire to do that, her recognition that that was in her to manifest, she was not questioning that. She was certain of it. Now, where that certainty comes from, I have no idea, but probably love. But she made that distinctive choice. And so then she learned how to paint. But every step of learning how to paint, because she's a young girl, is a joy for her. Because every time you see it yourself doing it better, you feel good about it. And then she began to be able to do things that the rest of us look at and go, how do you do that? Because she can see all those subtleties and how to make a brush and paint do it. And it's a wonderful thing. But if you turn that to love and start painting with love in your life, it's because you've taken possession of it. You've taken possession of some form of love that you can wield with your children, with your life, with what you're doing. And what I'm interested in is you're living in a world that's utterly void of it. 99% of the human race doesn't know that love's around it, doesn't see it, doesn't recognize it. They say, I love things all the time, but don't even know what they're talking about. It's just a sloppy, garbled mess of human lack of understanding. And we have to strip that away and shape it up and get down to something that makes it tangible, real, and repeatable, like painting. And I'm interested in how you're going to do that, how you're going to do it, Taylor, and how Seb's going to do it, so that you can visibly see it growing stronger and more tangible and more powerful and more potent and more visible to your senses in your life from the very first stroke. Now, from my point of view and what lives in me, the easiest way to do that, I don't know how, when I analyze how I sense the reality of love, the thing that comes easiest to me is seeing it. And by seeing it, I know it's real. That doesn't mean that what I'm seeing is actually love, but by visualizing it, by imagining it, I then open my inner senses and I feel the contact of it. Now, if we do that, if the three of us do that together, just because that's what this is a place where we actually do what we're talking about, so that people who try that themselves can feel the impact of it. If you actually, I don't know what it looks like to you, but when I look into the portal of love, I look and invite it and want to see it. It's a color shows up, an energy shows up, and that energy has a certain kind of watery gold look to me most of the time. Sometimes it can look like anything else. It can look like any color, but most of the time it's like that. It's kind of a golden kind of water. Let me see what some of those. Oh, that's my daughter. Okay. So it has that kind of gold watery light. So if you open up and look into the portal of love, look into the kingdom of love. It's right there inside you. That was the whole purpose and nature of it. It came into the human race to join us. We live inside this body. We aren't this body. We live in the consciousness in the body that's sensing through our senses all of this stuff in the outer world and in our inner world. And because we haven't experienced the inner world very much, unless you've done a lot of meditation or a lot of praying or a lot of other psychic or psychological work, your inner senses are not necessarily very open. But you do receive things through it. So do it. Open it up within yourself and pull in this watery gold energy and invite love to join it, to join you with it. And if it wants to change its color, let it. It might become a magenta. It might become orange. It might become blue. It might just become clear. When love appears as pure white, it's really intense sometimes. So if that appears, then you might feel this purifying intensity. Do it until you feel the ring of the chimes, and it's almost like you hear it. It's like someone rang bells that you just can't quite hear, and suddenly there this energy is. Well, that tells you in your inner senses that something has joined you. It doesn't prove that it's love. It doesn't prove that it can do anything, but you're at least on a path to love, because that's where we're going. We're not going to some other kind of weird thing in a universe we don't care about. We're going for the presence of love in this universe so that we can become whole with it. That it's a part of this universe we're missing a full consciousness of, and we want to complete that consciousness by asking that to join us and inform us of itself. See, those are demands that you can place. Those are called invocations. If you invoke love, you're placing a conscious demand on it to appear with you. You're not bullying it. You're asking it. But you're asking it with your will, because your free will is sacred to love. It will not violate it. And if your free will says, I don't give a shit about love, then love's not going to bother thinking about it. It's not going to worry about it. It'll wait. But if you're actually serious and you're inviting that in a moment of contemplation, then be open to expecting it to appear to you, to show up, to validate your invocation, to validate your relationship. And just like that, it does, because it will never dishonor your invocation by ignoring you. Love can't ignore truth. It can't ignore your honesty. It's not in the universe to do that. You can ignore one of your kids that's screaming and yelling because you're busy doing something else, but love doesn't do that. It never ignores anything. It joins it, and it joins it with love, and it embraces what the honest invocation offered for it. It said, I need your help for this. Now, we're not talking about prayer. Prayer is the beginning of a relationship, and it's great. It works fine. It'll bridge you over to. Taylor finally sank her ship.
And I'm here.
Oh. I know. So it's pulling that energy in. And when you feel that energy roaring around you, you feel yourself being saturated with at least the beginning of that energy, in a way that you feel the tingling within yourself or within your senses. And I'm not asking you to focus it on somebody, on Gwendolyn, who needs your love because she's sad and unhappy about her cat dying. I'm talking about the pure one-on-one involvement that you have with that energy itself. This is a living, intelligent, conscious being that creates an entire universe out of itself. That's how much love holds in it. So it's not going to be small. It's going to be exactly the measure that you can relate to. But to love, there is nothing small or big. There's only that which is, and its relationship to it, which is fully invested. It doesn't value the solar love more than Seb's candle. It joins both with equal reverence, equal humility, as Taylor says. and equal striving to join it in a way that makes it come into the real world with a full consciousness, which is what love is doing. It's making the entire universe conscious of love itself and the purpose that animated it and brought it forth, and the development that everything in the universe could have with it, in it, and with that purpose of life. So you see, there's a very big operation going on, and it requires of love that it meet you where you can receive it. So if we take advantage of that and work with it, then we start with that. We start with making that tangible and stop assigning it to mystery and hopefulness in somebody giving us a second look, or delivering something to us that we quote unquote love because it satisfies our sense of desire. The desire for love itself as an experience in our consciousness becomes an aspiration, something we are breathing towards. We are breathing in because we want to have a oneness with it, and then through that oneness with it, learn how to become contributory to others' oneness with it. Because that's where the universe is. It needs that kind of help. The human race needs that kind of help. Even children born who are born in the shadow of love and have this wonderful beauty that every child seems to carry, they lose that. How do they lose it? They lose it because as they grow into the consciousness of themselves, no one is giving them adequate nourishment and support to stay in communication with the love that brought them forth. And that includes your kids, Taylor, if you don't provide it for them. And Taylor's a mom, but I've got 3 kids, and who knows how many Seb's got, the way he fools around. But the point is, we can bring this forth for our children if we know it ourselves. And then it becomes a taught thing, and then it becomes a learned thing. And then children at 6 or 7 years old grow to expect the presence of love to enter them and become part of the relationship of their inner life for the rest of their life. The way mommy has it, the way daddy has it, the way the world has it. But we are so void of it that nobody's teaching that because we can't find it ourselves. So our purpose at the Love Foundry is to put that into a workshop, to workshop love into your life in a way that empowers you with it, which is not going to happen until it's real to you, until it goes from belief into what does love have to become before it becomes a working part of your experience, Seb?
Real.
Yeah, but what does that mean in terms of your consciousness? What makes something real to you? What happens to it that you don't have to think about it? Intellect is void of love. It doesn't have love in it. It's a seeker. It's searching for it. But it can't see it or teach it or touch it or make it manifest in intellect. Because intellect is based on your brain, and matter can't yet respond to love. So you're asking a color to appear in your mind that can't appear there. So you have to seek love outside of the brain, outside of the current intellect of the human race. But you do have senses that can reach past intellect, past your mind, past your feelings, and directly contact it and know that contact is real.
Yeah.
And as you said, Seb, your feelings are not love. Love could be said to be, was expressed by someone once to me that made change my thinking about it in certain ways, is that love is perfected emotion. And when you perfect emotion, it stops being emotion. It starts becoming love. You see, then that's when that livingness enters into it. That's when it becomes a living thing that has its own shape and character and power and ability to interact with you. It interacts with you in ways that are so baffling and so magnificent and so unbelievable that you just are in awe of its capabilities of transformation and transmutation and unity. There's no question about it. It's the most magnificent thing in the universe. And it's willing to bow to you to start a relationship with you. And that's what we have to do. We have to take that with humility and start with what we have and build that in us. Love's already got it. It's already got whatever consciousness life holds is in that to create whatever's being created in the universe. We have galaxies, we have neutron stars, we have the fusion of all things in the universe and in every human being and every living creature that builds a spider web or any other thing. And so love's not limited, it's unlimited. So being unlimited, it can meet you where it needs to give you a sense of contact with it and a sense of oneness with it and a sense of rightness with it that nurtures you and grows you into it, grows you toward it, grows you onward with it. Everything in the universe is growing into and with and toward love. But we're not animating that. We're refusing that. We're rebelling against that. We're saying, no, I'll get it to you later. But in the meantime, we're living in a universe where much of what love could offer us is missing, and terrible suffering goes on, and loss and inability to nurture and care and take care of. We're good at nurturing when things are good and the weather's good and the crops are good. But when adversity falls on us, then we're not good at nurturing. And that's when we need that power in us of love to compensate and transform and transmute and bring us into the greater gifts that are in other parts of the universe around us to support us, which they will do with commitment and with love. Your inadequacies can become compensated for. There's amazing and miraculous powers that come to our aid when we open up this relationship. But that's after we establish it. So let's go back to the beginning and establish it. How are we going to do that? How are you going to open yourself up and bring that in and then keep it in your consciousness while it has a chance to grow into your awareness? Now, I think we're in a duality. There's the human consciousness that operates without awareness of love, without identifying it and being aware of it and sponsoring it in ourselves, because we just don't know how. And then
for
there's
me,
the
what
universe.
helps is for me what helps, because I think I'm far more sensory than I am visual. Like,
Yes.
for me, I go to the feeling of how it feels, and I bring that in, and then I feel instantly connected with it, and I have to hold that. And it's tricky because everything else in life is trying to distract you away from holding that. But I think it's easier when either there's a situation that calls for it, or your own personal need, because life feels too terrible without it after knowing it exists and feeling that it exists. So
Okay, that's great. I think you're absolutely on to that. And I think that that's vital in your case, because I
yeah.
think that's how you function. But what worries you about it? Why are you worried about it? Why are you worried about your life? What about your life makes you feel insecure that you cannot do that with love in a way that will compensate for your failures on some level where you don't have it? Marty, did someone feed you or not feed you? Marty's giving me that look. So, in other words, if that's all true for you, then life should be a joyful experience because you're looking for it, you're inviting it, you're bringing it in, and you're sharing it as best you can. And wherever you are, the house you're in there with the people you're in there with it, you are a loving presence in it. Not always, because you can be gloomy and you can be out of balance and out of sorts and or drunk or stoned or whatever it is you do. But the point is that you get it. You get that this is real, and that if you grow this relationship, you're going to be a radiating point of that, because love doesn't need you to show it off. It shows itself off. That's why we make paintings of saints with big glowing halos of light around them, because that's them joined with love. That's love shining through and around them. Now, they're not even aware that it's shining around them many times because they're just doing it all the time. Well, hi, Taylor. You made it back.
Yeah, I got it to where I don't rock the boat so much and distract
Oh, I
you.
see. You built a scaffold. Mm-hmm. So we're talking about this in a way that we want to bring it about through opening it up and bringing it in. Now, I opened it up to bring it in as a sort of watery gold, and the energetic presence that comes and touches your inner self and gives you a feeling like, wow, I feel like the universe is in a way with us. It's with us right now.
Yes.
And I want that to be meaningful. So I'm applying what I know intellectually about love to assume, because my intellect knows a lot about it, which doesn't mean my inner senses and observations are seeing it all, doing things. I'm not watching it, except I'm looking at this golden light and I'm looking at this sense of presence. But if I keep making that more and more real in my consciousness, then it eventually is going to take up residence permanently. It's going to just be with me wherever I am, whatever I'm doing. That will be part of my makeup, because I will have exercised the muscle that does that. I see it, I invite it, I'm conscious of it. It's with me. And it may not be very bright, it may not be lighting up the room, but it's going to become noticeable at a certain point to others. They're going to say, well, I feel good when he's around. There's just a certain kind of hopefulness or energy or positive energy. And because we misunderstand how love works with other human beings, that it has to work through free will and it can't violate free will. You can't give it to someone else. It takes their free will bringing it in, but you can intensify it in the room for yourself. You can be wearing a very powerful inner connection to it because you love the stuff. You want the stuff to become part of your anatomy, part of your emotional anatomy, your mental anatomy, your physical anatomy, your personality. And then at some point we realize that the soul nature is simply who we are in that love already. You're already somebody there. And you want to bring that somebody into this somebody so that they can share the space. There's lots of ways to grow up into this power. And when people do, they are living in the real universe. They're living in reality because they are fully infused with love, and they know what it looks like when they look at humanity and see these people that are completely unconscious of it and the mess they're manifesting because they're not using love as a inner structural power. So, and that tells anybody that's got love in their soul and in their consciousness where the world must go and where it is going to go, because we're already growing in it. The human race has grown from a primitive bunch of bullshit artists to a group of people who actually have this percolating down in us, and we want it to come to the surface and start manifesting for us. Of course, we want it to manifest for us because that's the first response most of us have to anything is selfish. What's it going to do for me? Well, a lot. And then what's it going to do for others? A lot. And how am I going to help them become more conscious of it so that they can have it? Well, we're going to work at that. That's what we're doing right now. We're working at it. And we're working at it in two ways. One, we're thinking and talking about it and offering suggestions for people to do, Seb, you, Taylor, me. And we're holding the awareness of it as best we can in the space while we're doing it. Yeah. Those are two different things. One comes from the heart, which is holding it in the space with you, the shared relationship. And the other comes from the head, which is what the Buddha was doing. And it gives us this understanding of how to work our way to that compassion. So it's complex. It's a complex struggle, but it's a simple solution. Just let yourself have it. I mean, no one can take it away from you. No one can give it to you. But you can. You can give it up, or you can give it to yourself. And as we learn how to do that and demonstrate that to our children and to other people, then they're going to learn. How else are they going to learn? And you can have a university that teaches a lot of bullshit stuff, or you can have a university that teaches you how to love. Well, first lesson of how to love is open a relationship to it, because it's real and it's living. It's not training yourself to create and cook up emotions or training yourself to act a certain way. It's not that, because that's dead. That's not living. If you want to learn how to love, ask love to show you, because it's a living thing. Once you recognize it's a living thing, it's the living thing, the living creative thing. What's it say in the Sun Moves Northward? The only king, the only ruler, the only creator. Well, that covers it pretty much. So if you think of it that way, and you realize, if I don't know that, if I don't know love that intimately, if I don't feel my relationship to it, and I don't feel that it's filling the space around me, and I don't feel like I'm generating it for others, then I'm not very good at it. And I need to get better at it. And you need to do that, Taylor, for your kids, so they learn it from you. Where are they going to learn it from? Who knows more about love than you do, Taylor? That's Uncle in the Dan. House. Uncle Dan. Yeah. I am not a cop-out for you. Although I love your kids. And so while humanity is on the cusp of this, because it's not as hard as it looks. There's just no precedent for it, clear precedent for it around us that you can go look at the works of the Ruby out of Omar Khayyam or the Sufi poetry, or read the Bible. These things demonstrate relationship to love. But
the danger is, once you do get a taste for love, it does become precedent. It's like,
it's addictive. And it's because once you know it's real, once certainty comes to you, once knowing replaces belief, once you know it's exceptionalism in your space with you, then you can't stop. You can't stop coming back to it. You can't stop like taking threshold. Nibbles off. Yeah, once you taste the cake, you just keep taking nibbles off it. And so pretty soon, what happened to the cake? But it's one of those things that by taking it, the more you take of it, the more you have to give of it. And the more you give of it, the more you alter the frequencies of the space in which you occupy, so that others can be triggered by it. You can be triggered by hatred. You can be triggered by irritation. Irritation is the most contagious and destructive energy in the freaking universe. One totally irritated person can wreck a group of 5,000. So, but so can love. It can go the opposite way with it. And when you're the piece of that action that's in the space, and it's a secret, powerful thing you can do. You can be the person in the room of 5 or 50,000 who's just loving, got love going in you, working on it, developing it, and playing with it, having fun with it, growing it in you, and you're impacting the whole room. The whole room. Or you can be full of irritation and anger and frustration and negative charge. But you see, because love is a real thing in the real universe, absence of it creates a non-reality. There is no place that can be without it. Even on Pluto, there is love. There is no place in the universe where love is absent. There's only places where those that live there are unconscious of it. And by being unconscious of it, you create a world without it. Because you are a creator with love. You always have been. And we're going to find out whether you can make that work for you and make that work for others by creating the space in which love thrives, or the illusion in which it doesn't. You can be a person in the world who wants everyone to suffer under the illusion that you are the center of power and what you say everyone must do and all of that totalitarian kind of crap. And that's the wish of people like that. And they push that and promulgate that out on others, and so that they can give themselves personal power and organize that around themselves as a big story they're telling. And when it's a Putin or a Xi in China, they are integrated personalities of great personal power, and they feel in themselves that they're serving everybody else by applying their will. Because they're unconscious of love, they're not trying to give that to everybody. They're trying to give an ordered existence that they are the center of. But they're not good enough to give them a love-based existence yet. They aren't involved in the engagement of applying love to that process. Yeah, I think Putin genuinely wants Russia to be a successful and stable country. But he doesn't know how to give love to it to make it a successful and stable country. He only knows how to give will and intelligence to it as an integrated personality of great power. And because it won't work without love, it's going to fail. And it's already cost 1 million deaths. And when it does fail, they'll hoist him on a petard, and that'll be it for him. And someone needs to come along who will represent that same kind of will and intelligence, but animated by love. And there you have a Buddha. But there are not enough Buddhas, are there? But we've produced a few. We've got a Gautama Buddha. We've got a Maitreya Buddha. You've got some other Buddhas. You got Krishna, who's definitely a Bodhisattva kind of guy. You've got Jesus, who met the mark. So the human race is starting to produce people who have made this, who have taken up this challenge, and they have answered it because it's in them to do so. And because love entered the human race with us a couple thousand years ago, it's made it infinitely easier for Seb to do it. But not unless he understands that that is true, that it is in him, and that it is available, and that he can work out a relationship with it. Now, I don't know how long it took the Buddha, Gautama Buddha, to become a Bodhisattva who used perfect mind to bring him to compassion and love. A long time, but he did it. But I think with love inside of you already, you might find yourself reaching that same pinnacle a lot sooner, but you're not going to do it the way he did it. He did it the hard way. He climbed that mountain through intelligence until he perfected mind, and then sat under the Bodhi tree and put it all together and realized that when you've perfected mind, the only intelligent thing you can do is surrender it to love. And you have to know that. He knew that. No question, no doubt. Because once you've perfected mind, there's nothing else to do. And that's what wisdom becomes. The application of intelligence with will and love. So I'm just saying that we don't have to become Buddhists. We don't have to become Christians. We don't have to become anything that people who decide they're going to embrace love and learn how.
Yeah.
In their human nature, in ourselves. And love is as much of a science as quantum mechanics, and it's as much of a romance as the mystical Christian story that the Rosicrucians hold, and that the mystics did in the old days. And it's just a truth that can be told 1,000 ways. But for each one, it has to be told the way we can learn it, bring it into our experience, make contact with it, and hold it there for ourselves and others. Now, if you can't make room in yourself for love, how are you ever going to have it? If you can be conscious all day of love coexisting with you, then you're going to have that growing in you, aren't you? Yeah. That's infusion then. Then it's infusion. But it doesn't stay in your mind, does it, Taylor?
No.
No, it just slips away, doesn't it? And you get busy and you're teaching your kid how to do this mathematics or how to understand the Greeks. And you look up 3 hours later and go, shit, I haven't thought about love at all. Well, maybe because thinking about it is not what you need to do. So
no, but it's more like a touchstone. The thought becomes just a touchstone.
Well, the touchstone is huge. You know how many people in the world have no love touchstone? So you start with what you've got, and then you find the way to increase it. I can't tell you how to do it. I can tell you what I'm doing, and I can give you suggestions to throw rocks at and see if they bounce off. And nobody can tell Seb how to do it. Look at him. He's a complete mystery, even to himself. But every human being has it. Every human being.
We all are, Seb.
And when we listen to Seb, in spite of the way he looked, when we listen to him, we find out he's actually working at it and making some progress with it. So we're not inspired, but we're positively uplifted a little. So I think it's doable in his case. And if he would give up
all of our cases.
No, if he would give up the criminal activities.
Or never.
Oh, yeah.
Too Sicilian for that.
Yeah, that's right. Sicilian and a British mixed together in one person. That's now finding love in that person is a miracle in itself.
But if I can do it, then anyone can. So.
If you can do it, anyone can. And given your education and your lack of talent, so that's what you want to prove. You want to prove
every dog has his day.
That's right. If an idiot like me can do it, anybody can. And you're in a generation of idiots. The millennials really are dangerously dumb. And anyone who's ever learned how to rebuild an engine in a car knows the value of it. They know the value of being able to, the first time I ever tried that was in 1959 or somewhere there, where my friend Calvin and I, we found a Model A. It was dumped in a field somewhere, and we decided we can bring this thing back to life. And now we're like 8 years old. But that's what that generation felt. It felt it could do things like that. And so you drag the car out of the weeds and the mud, and you take it and wash it all off and clean it all out and see what's broken and what can be fixed. Now, it wasn't in great shape. They wouldn't have dumped it in the field. But that doesn't stop you when you're 8 years old. You just know this damn thing can run. And
now, I apologize. I'm going to cut away before I interrupt the podcast in profound ways.
All right, Taylor, we'll
banging at my door.
No, we'll talk. We don't have to talk about that story or any other story. Let's just go back to what we're doing, which is.
I like this story.
It doesn't matter.
You gotta get the engine running, Dan.
Yeah, you'll just have to find out whether we ever got it running or not later. Okay. So let's end this, Seb, because Taylor's leaving, so that's fine with me.
Well, thank you, everyone, and we'll pick this up again soon.
Thank you.
Yeah, we didn't say we're good at this, but we are doing it.
We are.
We are. Thanks, Seb.
Thanks.
Fire it up, kick it off, plug it in, touch it, whatever you got to do to make this thing. Don't you wanna know?